Welcome back to my Quest New Horizons. I'm Dear Darling, and should we see what's going on our little island of Fawnhollow today? I was like, that's not how you normally start things, and a bit of a stilted rhythm, as things usually go. But anyway, yeah, what are we going to talk about today? I don't really know. Just vibing out, played some games, did some other stuff. Watched the video, I suppose. No, I watched more of that Japanese illustrator. What's his name? Is it Saito, I think. Yeah, Saito Naoki. That sounds right. Because he uploaded a new video, and as I can see, it seems to be a sort of part of a series where it's like viewers or whatever send in their illustrations, and he critiques them and changes things about them to make them more appealing, or I suppose in his own words, to make it tell a better story, I suppose. But anyway, hello everyone. Right now in Fawnhollow, it's 5:32 PM on Saturday, February 5th, 2022. Of course it's Saturday, so KK Slider is here performing. It will be just about late enough, I think, at 6 PM for us to get one of the new songs from him, which we haven't really done for ages, so we should probably at least try and keep that in mind. Yeah, I'm not sure what else happened. Not really all that much has happened. Oh, Lily, it's just been, thank you for the generous gift. I actually probably shouldn't have thrown that away, but oh well, it's gone now. It's on video. I probably should have read it out first, but apologies, Lily. What could you have possibly given us? It's very strange how readily we start giving out presents, I suppose, in Animal Crossing, isn't it? You give them a present and they give you a present that's like almost immediately. It's very much the sort of give and receive. I suppose that's quite fitting for Valentine's Day. What is this? Ah, it's this one. There's a fake painting. This fake painting which Red gave to us. Now, well, I mean, technically, well, even worse, I guess we bought it from him. Do we have enough money in our inventory? We do have enough. I don't know, anything interesting happening in games? Gamosphere, that's not what anyone calls it. Starlight Stage, I did some pause. Got Valentine's You, even if, I mean, that doesn't mean anything to you, so it doesn't really matter. I guess we'll talk more about that sort of critique series. Yeah, I only watched this one, and I watched the one released before this by that illustrator, and it's kind of interesting. Kind of makes me want to send in like stuff that I've done and be like, hey, you critique this, but obviously he's much more. Well, I'd imagine he's much more in tune with like anime art and that sort of thing, which I don't really particularly do. Maybe, I don't know. I guess it's kind of anime inspired, but maybe not to that extent. It's a bit difficult to say, but yeah. I mean, like I like to think of myself as someone who's rather open to criticism and that sort of thing. And I'm not gonna be like totally put off by it. Certainly when I was younger, it'd be a lot more, criticism would act, I suppose, a lot more harshly on my psyche, being like, how dare I be anything less than perfect or whatever at something. But, nowadays I have a much more, reasonable viewpoint of being, it's a good way to improve yourself as a person. Of course, not all criticism is, of course, welcomed or anything like that, depending on the situation. There's a time and place for these sort of things. As always, it's not like if you're just sort of vibing out, being like, hey, just sort of, try to, I don't know, write a song, like, or play this piece on the piano, and I wasn't, there was not really much of an expectation for it, and be like, oh, why don't I just upload it to YouTube for fun? I haven't said and done this, but I'm just saying, a hypothetical scenario, and someone goes like, hey, these are a list of things you could have done better. It's sort of just like, well, okay, yeah, whether it's legitimate criticisms or not, it's sort of like a reader mood sort of situation where you're just like, maybe not really the most pointful place to put it. No, not everything, I suppose, is that's the point. Not everything, I suppose, needs necessary criticism in that sort of sense. Some things are just, there for the sake of it. It's not like you're trying to do it particularly to be like, oh, I'm going to try and improve. I'm going to try and desperately improve how to do this thing, which, I suppose is where it gets conflated. There's a lot of times when you try and do this hobby, a lot of times you are trying to look for a semblance of mastery and trying to improve and do things that way. But, I suppose a worse scenario is that people just give you bad criticism in that sort of sense. And, believe it or not, giving criticism is a skill in of itself, Being able to phrase things in a way which actually gets a message across without, for one, just standing overly harsh, two, actually being constructive in a sense of something that they can even control or something that they can build upon, something that they can actually learn from, and with evidence, I suppose, holding weight behind it, and also the communication skills you need to actually get the message across succinctly without, you know, just basically coming off as a jerk, you know. That's the thing. I'm not going to say that most people don't realise, because I think it's something which people internalise quite early, but, you know, perhaps it doesn't internalise quite as much as you'd hope. Because it's, you know, and I don't know how to phrase this properly. And I feel a bit weird just talking about it, because I feel like I'm using a lot of straw man arguments, because to be fair, I'm just sort of talking about hypothetical scenarios rather than actually concrete examples. But I don't really have any concrete examples. I suppose, you know, criticism kind of like water off a duck's back for me a lot of the time. You know, and I take a criticism, I process it, being like, is this something I pay attention to? Is this something I control? Is this something which is relevant, I suppose, to what I'm thinking? If it is, you know, you take it into account. If it's not, oh well, toss it out. And that might seem rather dismissive of that sort of thing. And I suppose in some ways it is, but in also some ways, sometimes criticism ain't what it's all about, you know? Sometimes you just do it for you, sometimes you just do it for recreational stuff instead. And if it's recreational, you're not always looking to pinpoint, mastery, improve, and that sort of thing. But, you know, both taking and receiving criticism is a skill in its own right. One which, you know, honestly, this should be like one of the things taught in schools, to be honest, and along with numerous other things, but teachers are quite overworked as they are already, so perhaps but this is something which should have been taught or talked more about in PSHE, you would have thunk. PSHE, if you don't know, is a subject, I don't know if it's just in British schools, but it's called personal social health education. Or is it physical? No, I think it's personal social health education, which is kind of just like the miscellaneous subject of all the subjects where you talk about things. You know, talk about sex education. You talk about drugs and like safety, internet safety, etc., etc. You know, all of these sort of like social issues which don't sort of that neatly fit into the general academia. A public or not even just public education, just a childhood education sort of gets roped up into that. But, you know, I think it's a bit of an underrated subject, because if anything, you can kind of rephrase it as a sort of like real life skills, isn't it? Things which are a bit more relevant, you know. Well, okay, I'm not going to be here to criticise the school curriculum, because I suppose I'm not really an expert of it. It's sort of out my league to really judge it, order that personally. But yeah, I mean, learning to take criticism and learning to give criticism are both vital skills in their own. You know, taking it, you got to be able to. Taking it, you got to be able to filter through. Well, firstly, you got to have a sort of layered attachment between the criticism and your own personal feelings about that sort of thing. You know, if you open yourself up to criticism, you know, you have. Everyone's got emotional attachment to things that they create and that sort of thing. I'm not going to say it's the easiest thing in the world to attach it if someone just goes like starts criticizing it. It's easy to make it feel, not make it feel like, but it's easy to sort of interpret it as a personal attack, I suppose, rather than something where it's just like someone trying to build and help you improve and that sort of thing. And sometimes it is a personal attack, which is, I suppose, is another part of taking criticism is being able to sort of sift and filter through things and understand where criticism becomes constructive, when it becomes destructive, I suppose, in that sort of sense. Mind you, I'm not an expert in any of these. I don't even know what an expert of this would even be. An expert in communications, maybe? I'm not really sure. But yeah, especially when taking it, you know, there's going to be people out there who is going to give terrible criticism. There's going to be people out there who will end up giving criticism and it will just be a personal attack or incredibly rude or just completely unwarranted. And then I suppose the part of what you had to learn, part of becoming more adept at taking criticism is identifying that much more swiftly and just being able to, I suppose, move on past it. Now, I don't mean that in the sense that you shouldn't just be like, oh, you know, just let you know, these people just be rude to you for no apparent reason. And of course, it's a separate issue if you want to, you know, call them out on it, or, well, I wouldn't really suggest retaliation unless like a final ditch effort, but that's not really the way I do things. But everyone's got, I suppose, different philosophies when it comes to that sort of regard. Yeah, but basically just letting it not waste your time is how I say it, you know. You get some phony criticism, holds no weight, holds no evidence, holds no ground, just ends up being kind of personal attack. Just being able to be like, no, this criticism's terrible, I don't need it. And just like tossing it away, you know. And let it, as they say, water off a duck's back. Not letting it affect you. So yeah, It was a bit of a weird philosophical tangent I went on there. I guess it's not really philosophical, social tangent. I gotta say, my headphones are being very uncomfortable for some reason lately on my right ear, and I can't tell exactly why. I think it's crushing it slightly, but just the mild alignment on it is a little bit funky. So instead I'm gonna just wear my left ear only instead of my right ear only, which is normally what I do when I record things. What was I gonna say? Yeah, anyway, it's a pretty interesting series because I've only seen 2 episodes. Do I think I'm about the skill level the people are drawing? I don't think I'm that far off, to be honest. Surprisingly. Or not surprisingly, you know. Certainly I look at some of the artworks and be like, I can see myself drawing something along those sort of lines. But, you know, I like to think that maybe I'd be a little bit better. Maybe? I don't know. I don't mean that as shotters on any creators. You know, it's incredibly hard to judge these sort of things, whether you're actually better or not in that sort of regard. And to be honest, in a lot of cases, it doesn't really matter, does it? But the more important part is the interesting sort of criticism, which I watch and be like, you know what, I can take this, and now I can apply it to my own sort of things. Even though the criticism he gives tends to be a lot more specific to the artwork he's doing. He, what's his name? Saito-san, I guess, Saito-sensei, is probably more of an apt way to call him. Gives very structured reasoning, I suppose, behind the criticism of each of the things, and I'm trying to think of a good example from this video, you know? Like, this one, it's this person's drawing about, like, a kid with, like, some plant-esque powers, I suppose, and Saito Sensei talked a lot about interpreting the conveying of a story, I suppose, in the artwork, and being able to make sure that the story gets across properly. And like one of the things he commented on about this painting was like he assumed it was meant to be a thing where it's like, oh, look how this kid was like found himself in like a dangerous scenario, but because of his strong powers, he was just like, you know, he could overcome it. But because of the way it was framed, because it's just like not conceptual idea behind the story, but the execution of the story, the more like macro level details made it that the kid kind of looked a bit like smug, and he looked kind of evil. It kind of looked like he was picking on one random pet, which may have been, to be fair to the illustrator's intent. But Saito Sensei taking it from the perspective of being like, hey, under the assumption that this is not quite the intention. The intention was that he's meant to be like some like cool kid who's confident in his powers and being able to overcome this sort of potentially dangerous situations. Like, here's how to reframe it, you know, emphasizing the importance of being able to convey your character correctly, you know, add more enemies to really show that he's in a disadvantageous situation. Make the enemies he's fighting against look far more ferocious, than emphasize the fact that it's evil. Because, you know, I'm sure, as it goes with anything in like art and, well, not just art, and many things, is that you learn the rules and then you follow the rules, and then only once you understand the rules and why they're there should you learn to break them. Of course, that's not particularly relevant in things like if you're a nuclear reactor worker, please don't break the safety precautions or rules. They're kind of there for a reason. I suppose that kind of applies as well. You know, you understand why the rules are there, and you can break them if you need to. Like, I don't know, if you had to break but going into the core reactor while it's on situation to save the lives of many or something, you understand why you need to do that. But I'm of course talking about it from a creative sense, an artistic sense. But there are like generic rules for you to follow, that sort of thing, you know. And then of course Saito Sensei is not painting it as being like, this is what you need to do in every single piece of artwork. There's always room for interpretation depending on exactly the sort of thing you want to convey. But of course, as the general, you got to understand, I suppose, what the general rule is doing, you know. Make the enemy seem evil to emphasize its villain, because you only get a little snapshot, I suppose, of the image. You can only, from that small snapshot, I suppose, draw a conclusion. And if the reader, if the enemy looks a bit too cute, if they look a bit too endearing, it's going to, you know, sort of muddy the message that you're conveying across, which could be fine if that's what you're going for. But that's very much, you know, the general idea of follow the rules and understand why the rule, I suppose, exists before you do anything wild to break it. I think we should probably also check out our stereo just to see what KK Cider song I'm listening. I don't know, am I going to listen to a KK Cider song? It's literally going to be like the last minute of the episode. Maybe not. Maybe I'll do it off camera. But yeah, it's always very interesting, you know. I feel like I personally am quite a critical person, at least other things I create, you know. to a certain degree, yeah, I can be critical of the things that other people do as well. But you know, it's a sort of balance, I think, between criticism. Not all criticism is invited. Oh, I didn't even realise Lily was sleeping. But of course, when you get the opportunity to have an open criticism, you know, if a friend being like, "Hey, criticize this," or etc., etc., etc. Certainly, it's always an interesting balance, I suppose, trying to get the criticism across that you want, but also without it being harsh in that sort of sense as well. But I find the bigger issue I run into, as I suppose, is not so much of a sense of communication, but more like, I'm not sure if I should be the one commenting on these sort of things. You know, I don't feel like an expert in like very many fields at all, to be honest. Which is, you know, I suppose that's kind of a case of everyone. Everyone's always an eternal student. So, but yeah, I guess that's my own sort of personal barrier when it comes to criticising things. I can come up with things to criticise, and I think I can communicate them. But a lot of the times I'm just like, I shouldn't be the one like saying this criticism. I'm not the expert. You should be just going to an expert would be sort of criticism. If you're seeking out criticism, which is just unhelpful, isn't it? You know. Isn't it? If you go to a friend and be like, hey, what do you think of, like, I don't know, my song or something I just wrote? You kind of want to hear their feedback. Even you kind of, you know, providing you are friends, I suppose, in the first place, you kind of understand each other's like level of expertise or something, and you kind of understand, you know, maybe your friend isn't expert, but they still have an opinion. They still can, they still have a reaction, you know, emotional reaction or some sort of interpretation of a thing, which still holds weight, you know. It's basically the thing is that what I suppose I have an unnecessary not a requirement, unnecessary need, I suppose, to sort of preface everything I say being like, I'm not an expert. I was like, don't you know, follow my advice if you want, if you want, or take with a grain of salt, etc., etc., which is just grossly unhelpful, you know. Not grossly unhelpful, grossly just unnecessary, I suppose, especially when you're doing criticism between friends. Now, I suppose if I was criticising a stranger's work, which if they particularly wanted me to, we didn't get you a fossil, did we? Why don't we just give you, like, 10 coconuts? Do you still like that? I don't really know. Because I do know to get those high echelons of friendship points, you have to give quite a high value present. But it's only worth 2,500, so it's not actually that high value. I think it has to be above like 3,000 or something. Is a cut-off point, but I can't quite recall. Sorry about that, a little bit of a pause. I don't really remember what I was talking about. Well, I guess now we can do a KK Slider song, huh? Seems like a perfect time to do it. Should we just do it now? Let's go find out what KK Slider songs we even need. If you don't know, it's because there was some new ones which were introduced in the 2.0 update, but I don't often play this late enough on the Saturday to actually get the KK Slider songs. So this is where we go. KK Slider 2.0 update new songs, and someone's probably made a list somewhere. And what? Oh! I accidentally just kicked my desk. That's not what I wanted. Okay, so Chill Wave was the last one we got. So I guess KK Bashment is apparently a thing. What the heck does KK Bashment mean? Hold on, KK Slider songs, New Horizons wiki. We just got to figure it out. We'll get back onto. Oh, we're talking about criticisms and things. We'll get back onto that once I've figured out exactly which ones I would like. I don't see KK Bashment on this list. KK Mariachi. What? Spanish? Bash? Oh, that's KK Bashment. Wait, is it ones in bold? It's new to the game, it is in. If it's in italics, it's okay. So I don't think we have KK Bashment. It should be after KK Ballad if we did, and it does not seem to be here. Oh, someone come to visit. Hey Mountain, your Power Apollo's here. It has been a while since someone actually visited our little house, so you know we're entertaining you, Apollo. We got time to burn until KK Slider's performing. Thanks for having me over. If you don't mind, I'm going to put some stuff away. But yeah, okay, well, I don't know exactly what we're talking about with criticism things. I probably said all I wanted to say about it, to be fair. I was just in the air and thought I'd stop by and see what you're up to, kiddo. Apparently we can play games with you if you talk to them long enough. Check it out, kiddo. I got you some octagonal glasses. Just a little gift there. Enjoy. Aww. Thanks, Apollo. We don't have a gift for you. See, that's what I'm saying. They give gifts out like crazy in New Horizons. Just constantly giving. Hey, Mountain, feel like playing a game, eh? Let's play. Alright, we're gonna play us a game of high card, low card. Gonna test your luck a little bit. They're all luck games. You wanna hear the rules? Yes, please. Wait, hold on, listen to your voice. I've got 9 cards here in my hand here, numbered from 1 to 9, of course. Alright, if I'm first, I'm gonna put a card. I really like the shuffle animation. It doesn't look as good on the Eagle. We got to number 7. Alright, here's where it gets a little interesting. You gotta guess whether the next card is higher or lower than 7. If somehow you miraculously manage to guess it right, you'll win yourself a patchwork coat. Do you just go around carrying all these items? Alright, I'm gonna draw another card. There, got a card all picked out. So, what do you think? Is it higher or lower than 7? Well, seeing as we have no way to actually possibly know, we're going to go for the higher probability option. Let's take a look-see. Hey, it's 1. You win. That was a hoot. Well, I promised you a patchwork coat. Well, I promised you, sorry. I see you know your way around this game. I ain't going to go so easy on you next time. Gahaha. Oh, so you got to say, Apollo? I do believe I have the exact same fan palm. Guess we're on the same page. Do you? Maybe. I can't actually remember what your house looks like. You can't show up on just anyone's doorstep unannounced, right? You gotta be good friends, eh? It's just me showing how good our friendship is, kiddo. Gahaha. Is it a thing that if you walk... Oh, well, you got a real nice place, but I figure I probably ought to be hitting the road soon, eh? Take care, Apollo. I gotta admit, this was a gas. I'll see you around, kiddo. Never heard that slang before. This was a gas. But hey, we got a nice little patchwork coat. It's nice to see someone actually chill out in our home. You know, one of our villages. Nice that we can do that. Unless it doesn't seem to happen all that frequently, which is good as well. I'd imagine it would get rather tedious at some point. Let us. KK slider. Let's have a KK slider. Okay. Well, I mean, we haven't had one for a while. Feeling the vibes on out. You ready for a tune? Let's hear it. Any requests? I want to have a good old... Give me that one song. KK Bashment. I don't even know what Bashment's meant to mean. Can I click on this? Does it tell me? What is it a parody of? K space? It's probably just a musical genre or something. I guess I'll look it up while the song plays in the background. KK Bashment. Groovy. How about you copy seats so I get started? Of course we will. And I'll just let KK Slider take it away. Apparently bashment is another word for dancehall, which is a Jamaican originating genre of music, which is pretty cool. It sounded quite nice, I'm not gonna lie. Certainly one of my more favourite KK Slider songs. But thank you, KK Slider. Should we just round this episode up here? I actually that pause actually kind of threw off my rhythm for exactly what I was talking about. And I suppose going into a KK Slider song after Apollo coming to visit probably didn't help either. Did we? Let's make sure we just get our Nookmal mission, Nookmal login bonus. I mean, I think I'll probably just round off this episode here. Not a particularly interesting one, certainly, but I've also don't really recall what I was talking about. So yeah, are we once per day? Oh, what? We didn't do it yesterday? This always happens, I always just forget. Oh well. What can you do? I don't know, criticism, you know? Learn to take it, learn to give it, you know, they're both skills, vital skills to learn, and sometimes people are good, sometimes people are bad at it. And both have use, I suppose, and, you know, I don't know, everything's context dependent in the end. But anyway, if you have been watching, thank you very much. It's been Animal Crossing New Horizons. I've been Dear Darling. Likes, comments, subscription, shares are greatly appreciated. Join me, Dear Darling, Discord and follow me down below. Hope we can see each other again, but for now, it's our farewell. So until next time, bye-bye for now.